So, what is going on, guys, and welcome back to another Blu-ray review. In this case, I'm so used to saying DVD review. Today I'm looking at the Star Wars Prequel Trilogy. Well, actually, technically I was right the first time because it has DVD. It's the Blu-ray plus DVD now. This is the Walmart special edition, I guess you can say, but all it is the regular release, but it has this extra little sleeve, and it has a little Force... I think it's called Forces of Destiny disc in there, but yeah, this is what it looks like. Here on the back, it's basically the same for both of them, with the exception of this part shows the special features while this one does not. And also here is the actual case. It's pretty heavy, you know, there's holding 6 movies in here, and there's everything. We open it up, it's pretty standard. Here's the Forces of Destiny, and I really hate how they put this absolutely awful white sleeve. I can't stand DVDs being kept this way, or, you know, Blu-rays, and it's Forces of Destiny. It has acquired the nickname Star Wars for Girls, and it really does live up to that, because when I first heard the premise of this show, all I heard was it was gonna take a look at Star Wars characters in between the movies and everything, and I was really excited to see what that would be. But then they started releasing the episodes. I know this was announced before, but I didn't find out about it until I watched the first few, that it was only focusing on the female characters, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's just that the Star Wars universe is so large, setting a show only on one gender is honestly just a little bit on the retarded side, but the actual shorts themselves are obviously aimed at the 4 to 6 years old demographic, and for those ages, it's actually pretty good. I mean, it's better than most of the crap you have on, like, Nick Jr. and everything. And, you know, some of them, like, most of Ahsoka's little mini arcs were good, but maybe that's just because, you know, all those characters are great from the Clone Wars. But yeah, Forces of Destiny, I'm sure it'll get a DVD or Blu-ray release sometime down the road, but as of now, I think this may be the only way to get it. I know you can obviously get it digitally, but like I said, I don't really keep up with that. So here we have this little thing. Honestly, I thought it was Star Trek for a second. It looks like a Star Trek poster, and this is just little papers telling you the cast and everything, the very basic information, and, you know, that's it. It's kind of pointless. And then here we have all of the disc. So here we have the Blu-rays, Episode 1, Episode 2, Episode 3, and here are the DVDs. I'm not going to name them because they're in the exact same order. Now, video quality-wise, the Blu-rays aren't a massive step up from the regular DVDs. They obviously do look a lot better, but, you know, with the newer movies, it's a lot easier to tell. Like, The Force Awakens and Rogue One are some of the best-looking Blu-rays out there. Obviously, 4K is a lot better, but, yeah, I'm really excited for The Last Jedi on Blu-ray. I'm not going to talk about my thoughts on the movie in this video, because I know there's some people who are still absolutely pissed about the movie. I'll talk about that in the Blu-ray review, and also have a review that I made after I first saw it. But yeah, to talk about these movies a little bit, I'm not going to go into them too much, particularly The Phantom Menace, because I do have a review in the works. I know I've been saying that since about springtime last year, 2017. However, back then, I did record an original narration for everything, but unforeseen technical problems happened, and I wasn't able to complete the review, and I was recently listening to his old audio tracks, and they are absolutely awful, so I'm kind of glad those problems happened. But I've been working on a script. It's actually done. I started it in November, and usually I'll just complete a script in one sitting, but I worked on it for, you know, off and on for a couple of weeks, and usually I'm not always in the mood to make a video. The only way my videos are actually going to be watchable is if I am really in the video making mood, and that's why I stopped doing the Arrowverse reviews, because a lot of times they just weren't that fun to make. So I only worked on the Phantom Menace script for that when I was in the mood to make a YouTube video, and I think it's really helped, and it will be my highest quality video yet, and I can definitely say that for sure. And I'm going to take a lot more time with the editing. I'm aiming for a late April release, but you don't care about that. Here's the thing. These movies, none of them are good objectively. There's an argument to be made for Revenge of the Sith, but there's a lot more to enjoy if you're a diehard Star Wars fan. Now, honestly, I think Attack of the Clones is the worst Star Wars movie ever made. Worse than the Clone Wars movie, and a lot of people seem to leave that one out just because it's animated. But yeah, any Star Wars movie that was released theatrically counts, except for the Ewok movies, because I think those are technically non-canon. And yes, I think the Battle of Endor saw a very limited theatrical release. Jesus Christ! Sorry for that really abrupt cut. There was a spider crawling on my leg, and spiders are the absolute worst thing that have ever existed. But I don't even remember what my point was, so just to segue, and probably a completely unrelated point, these movies are divisive, to say the least, and the general consensus, wow, I can't pronounce words today, but it seemed like most people agreed that they were all bad. But now, I mean, I think it has to do with people not liking the sequels, and I would say that the reception on them is overall positive, but the prequel movies are generally considered to be decent movies by the Star Wars fan base. And if people usually say that the prequel movies are despised, then those are people who are out of touch with how people really see them. Now, of course, if I'd said this 5 years ago, these would just be completely wrong. But everywhere I've been Star Wars, people looked on these movies fondly. Now, there are some people who still can't stand The Phantom Menace, and they still can't stand Attack of the Clones. Revenge of the Sith seems to be the one that most people like. Now, a lot of prequel fans are just as annoying as sequel haters, where they'll say, if Revenge of the Sith is not your favorite Star Wars movie, then you're not a true Star Wars fan. And the actual story of these movies are fantastic. They're some of the best out there. But George Lucas executed them in such a weird way, and the trilogy is so disjointed in the way it's set up, because The Phantom Menace takes place 32 years before A New Hope, and 10 years before Attack of the Clones, so that's a big problem, because the first and second movie are completely unrelated. Now, I would like to apologize if the camera work on this one is a little bit shoddy, but that's just because I have to look down to talk into my microphone, and I can't see the LCD screen, because it's kind of a taller tripod, so to continue my point, especially when you get into Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith, the story is actually great, but it's just all the dialogue and pointless moments that really bog it all down. And now, George Lucas, one of the things that I really like what he said about Star Wars is everything's kind of like poetry, it rhymes, and I think the sequels have continued that. The Force Awakens took it a little bit too far, but in The Last Jedi, where you have stuff like Crate, it's very similar to what we saw in Hoth, but the circumstances are different, and it's used in the story different, but it's familiar, and The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones pulled this off very well. Revenge of the Sith to a lesser extent, but that's just because what that movie does, it's kind of hard to pull that off, but it still did, and I think that's something great. And also, there's something really subtle. All three of the villains that we see in each one of these movies represents a part of Darth Vader. In The Phantom Menace, you have Darth Maul, who's consumed by hatred. In Attack of the Clones, you have Count Dooku, who is a fallen Jedi. And in Revenge of the Sith, you have General Grievous, who is a cyborg. All these things that make up Darth Vader. Now, I think that the way they had one new villain for each movie is awful for a trilogy. It may work for a TV show, but not for a movie. But because characters like Count Dooku and Darth Maul and General Grievous, all three of them had such large potential and they really were just wasted in these movies. And luckily, the Clone Wars TV show came along, and the Clone Wars TV show is so much better than all three of these movies. And Darth Maul, General Grievous to a very lesser extent, and Count Dooku were all given their own arcs, and they were just made a lot more interesting. And of course, you have the books and comics, and that's one thing I love about Star Wars. If something's bad in a movie, or it doesn't really work, then it can just be fixed in a book, and I think Star Wars, some people don't like that aspect, like certain YouTubers, I won't name any names, freak out about how, not really freak out, it's a strong word, but they dislike how everything has an extensive backstory. Personally, I like it that way. It just brings a lot more life into the world, and especially when you rewatch the movies. It's just a little interesting when you see a character in the background and you know their complete history, or you see them in the Clone Wars. And yeah, I think that's just something that the new canon has erased, and a lot of people freak out about that as well, and it had to be done for these new movies. We know an event that happens in every single year of Luke Skywalker's life outside of his death. So it was literally impossible for them to make a new movie with the original material. So I think that's going to wrap it up here. The prequel is very flawed, but I do get enjoyment out of them, with the exception of Attack of the Clones, which is a complete train wreck. But The Phantom Menace is a decent... Okay, I'm going to reserve my thoughts on The Phantom Menace until April. But Revenge of the Sith is actually a pretty good movie. It has a lot of problems with pacing and everything, but when you actually get down to the core, the story is amazing. Palpatine is such a great villain, and also there were some scenes that were actually genuinely well written and acted. So that's going to do it for this video. I would like to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.